Hi, this is Cynthia. I'm that Proverbs 31 girl, and I just wanted to come on quickly. Well, maybe not quickly, but I wanted to come on just to share something with you. Share something with you that has been beneficial to my life, that has blessed my life. And that thing is learning to look for God even in the strangest of situations, in the worst of situations, in the best of situations, no matter what the situation is, learning to look for God. And what I've learned is when you develop and make it, when you develop the habit of looking for God in everything, you'll see God in everything. See, sometimes we don't see God because we ain't looking for him. Just like sometimes we don't hear God because we aren't listening for him. But he's always there, ever present. We just have to train ourselves. We have to train ourselves, develop the habit, begin to practice. Like no matter what the situation is that you're currently in, no matter what the situation is that you're going to be in tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or whatever, you have to make it a conscious effort. You literally have to, just like how sometimes we have to calm ourselves down in circumstances or situations, we also have to make it a habit. We have to get into the practice of looking for God. Now, if we don't look for God, we're not going to find him. If we don't seek him, we're not going to find him. So in order to see him, in order to find him, we have to look for him. That's one of our responsibilities, to look for him. And the reason we have to look for him is because there are so many distractions in our lives day to day. They can be good distractions, bad distractions. Nevertheless, they are distractions. And the more we focus on the distractions, the less of God we're going to see in our life. Not because he's not there, but because of where our focus is. And so because life keeps happening and life keeps lifing, like life is going to happen no matter what. No matter what we do, life is always going to happen, and it's bound to bring some type of distraction, whether that's a text, a phone call, or whatever. Life is going to bring distractions, and what happens a lot of times is we focus on that distraction. And again, that distraction can be a great distraction, but if we focus on the distraction, then our eyes will shift to whatever we're focusing on. Like I wear glasses. Y'all see. Okay, I wear glasses. And even if I wasn't wearing glasses, because I'm human, these eyes that God created, that God set up in my head. Did I just say set up in my head? Yes, I did. These eyes right here, they can only focus on one thing at a time. One thing at a time. If I'm focusing on two different things, there's something going on. So it's the same thing that happens in our life. We're either going to focus on the distraction or we're going to focus on God. Now, focusing on God does not mean that you just, you're oblivious to everything else that's going on. No, but what it does mean is that I see the distraction, I acknowledge the distraction, but even in this distraction, no matter what it is, no matter how big it is, no matter how small it is, I'm going to look for God. And the more you practice it, the word of God says, my sheep, they know my voice, they hear my voice. And now the reason why the sheep hear the voice and know the voice and the strangers they don't follow is because they have been focusing on hearing. And the same way the sheep focuses on hearing so that they train their ears to hear and know, okay. See, that's God. That's my Father. That's God. That's my Father. That's why they're able to follow the voice of God and not be led astray by other things. And so we have to do this. We have to take that same mindset and focus, like make it a habit of looking for God, even in the smallest of situations. Sometimes we miss God because we're not looking for him. And if you're not looking for him, you're not going to find him. The word of God says, seek and you shall find. But if you aren't seeking, then how are you going to find it? If you're not seeking, you're not going to find. So what I have learned, and what I'm continuing to practice is seeing God even in the smallest of things, even in the littlest of things. And what that does is that opens up a door of gratitude. It opens up a door of gratitude. It increases your capacity to be grateful. It increases your capacity. And here's the thing about gratitude. Gratitude actually enlarges. It expands your capacity to actually receive from God. So sometimes if we're not receiving what we think or what we feel like we should be receiving from God, it might be because our capacity is too small. And sometimes your capacity is too small because you're not looking. You're not looking for God. God says, I am with you always. So there is nothing in your life that could ever happen where he is not there, but you got to look for him. You got to look for him. If you look for him, you will find him. So that actually opens up this doorway of gratitude. And you learn to be grateful for stuff that maybe yesterday it wouldn't have struck you as being, God, I thank you for this, and I thank you for that, and I thank you for this situation. You know how sometimes people can have like devastating things happen in their life, but then you see them and they have a heart of gratitude. And that heart of gratitude is expressed, it's expressed not just through their mouth, but then you see the joy of the Lord on their life. And it's like, how can this thing be when you've gone through this tragic thing or you've gone through this issue or this circumstance? It's called the place of gratitude. It's called the place of gratitude. And the more you look for God, the more you're going to see him show up. And listen, there is nothing cooler than you being in the midst of the storm, whatever that storm is in your life. There's nothing cooler than you being in the midst of the storm. And I'm talking about the winds and the waves and everything else. They're blowing, they're just coming to tear you to shreds. At least that's how it looks. But there is nothing more cooler than looking around because now, yes, because the wind can pick stuff up and throw them and hurl them different places. So sometimes, you got to learn how to adjust and how to duck. So you have to be aware of the circumstances and situations. You got to stay aware of it. But while you're staying aware so that you can duck and so that you can fight even in those places, you also have to keep your eye out looking for God. God, where are you at? Where are you at? Because I know you're here, because your word says that no matter what happens, you're going to be right here with me. So there's nothing cooler than you being in the midst of whatever it is that's going on in your life and you looking for God. And because you're looking for him, you find him. That's answer. That's solution. That's revelation. That is what you need. That's resource. Sometimes when we're in our situations and we're in our circumstances, the reason why, let's be honest, the reason why we don't have what we need for that particular moment, for that particular circumstance, is because because we're distracted and our eye is fixed on the situation, not fixed on the problem solver. Because we're not looking for the problem solver. So if we would learn to look for the problem solver, learn to look for God, even in the strangest of places. Like when you wake up in the morning, look for God. God, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? It brings about another level of gratitude and gratefulness. And now, as natural human beings, I have nieces and nephews spread all over this world. And there is something that happens as an auntie when I see my nieces and nephew with joy and with gratitude on their face. Do you know that makes me want to do whatever was done to see them have that type of joy again? So, whenever we look for God and we find him, let me back up. When we look for God, we're going to always find him. And so we have to make sure that we're looking for God. Seek the Lord while he may yet be found. And if you search for him, if you look for him, you're definitely going to find him. We miss him a lot of times because our eyes are closed or we're focused on something else. But that type of habit develops gratitude. Gratitude just doesn't come by itself. Gratitude comes and it shows up with other blessings, with other gifts. And one of those things is the gift of joy. And now if you all are like me, like I was saying earlier, like if I do something for one of my nieces or nephews and it brings joy to them, oh my goodness, my own heart like overflows with joy because I love the joy that it causes them. So I'll keep doing it again. I'll keep doing it again because their joy brings me joy. So now, why am I saying that? Don't you know that your father, my father, our father loves to see us in a place of joy? Like he loves to bring joy. He loves to give us joy. Gratitude, gratefulness opens up that process. It opens up that process. And now another thing that actually happens, is something came to me last night and this thought came to me last night is, okay, so gratitude actually is the place where your expectation is enlarged. So if you're in a situation, if you're in a storm, you're in an issue, you're in whatever it is, and now you have the expectation because you're looking for God. No matter what it is, you're looking for God. You are looking for God. Yep, you see whatever it is that's happening, but you're looking for God. Don't you know that looking for God is an expectation? That's an expectation. That is an expectation. And do you know what? Miracles happen in the presence of expectations. So when your environment is full of expectations, that is the time that God shows up and says, okay, now is the time for this particular thing. So sometimes we miss out on the blessings of God, on the miracles of God, on that thing that only God can do in our life because we don't have the expectation. And we don't have the expectation because our gratefulness is in the bottom of the buckets. Our gratefulness is on zero. And because our gratefulness is on zero, we're not looking for God. I have a niece who I'm not really sure how to say this, but I have a niece who kind of embodies gratefulness. You can be around her and say something like, oh, today, instead of going to Chick-fil-A, I had to get I had rice and pork and beans or whatever. And this is her response. Well, at least you had something to eat. Okay. Or instead of me being able to get this car or get this whatever or do this whatever thing or whatever, she finds a way to turn gratefulness. She finds a way to make gratefulness the word of the day or the word of the moment. So she's going to turn the situation around and say, well, at least, you had this. At least you were able to get up. At least you were able, to look at that thing. At least you had the strength for it. And that is like practicing gratitude. That's looking for God. That's looking for God. And now it may not always make sense, but if you begin to look for God, even in the small, I'll say it like this. If you begin to look for God, even in the small circumstances, when you burn the rice, look for God. Look for God. When that thing that you expected to happen didn't happen the way that you wanted it to happen, look for God in it. Look for God in it. If you look for God, I promise you, you will find him. Not only will you find him, but you're increasing your level of gratitude. Gratitude brings about joy. Joy increases your expectation. And listen, when you have an expectation, the word of God says that he that hungers and thirsts after righteousness, that's expectation. That hunger, that's expectation. God has to move. God has to move. He's going to fill that thing. He's going to fill that expectation, but you got to be looking for him. You have to be looking for him even in the storm, looking for him in the good times, the bad times, whatever. It's not that God is not there. He is right there. But are we really looking for him? Because if we were really looking for him, we would always see him. We would always find him. So I encourage you, look for God in everything. Look for him. Look for him. And the more you look for God, here's something else that happens. The more you look for God in your circumstance, the more you look for God in your marriage, instead of looking at the problems of it, the more you look for God in your finances, the more you look for God in your health. Yes, we know the reports and this, that, and the other. Look for God. Look for God. The more you look for God, you will find that you're minimizing your problems. Like you're putting your problems in the place that they should be, and you're magnifying God. That is where the heart of gratitude comes from. That's where it flows from. And miracles happen in the presence of expectation. Again, I'm Cynthia. I'm That Proverbs 31 Girl. I encourage you to subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm That Proverbs 31 Girl. I'll see you next time around.